Hey everybody, this is Maha,
And this is Dylan.
and we're the hosts of See, That Wasn't Too Hard, a podcast that explores everything from process improvement all the way down to organizational health. Isn't that right, Dylan?
Heck yes.
Yes, it's Friday, so we're allowed to curse and say heck. Are you ready for the podcast,
Heckin'
Dylan?
yes.
Yes. Heck yes, there you go. Let's get started. So, Dylan, where can organizations go then to actually find professionals
hmm
to be able to help them on their process optimization or on their process improvement journey?
Yes. So many people get their start with a keyword.
Mhm.
So Six Sigma or Lean or Toyota. And so they might use those keywords to hire somebody to deliver these efficiency benefits or cost benefits to their business.
Mhm.
And so they might go out to find certifications like a Six Sigma black belt or a green belt or a master black belt. You can even find yellow belts.
And let's talk about then the belts. Where does that come from, and how does the actual um, progression or advancement look like?
Sure. Okay. Short history of Six Sigma. It started in the 50s with this guy named Deming, who basically said, I have an idea. Let's know what we're talking about before we decide what to do about it.
Good.
And that's simplifying some things. But he has some great videos that are on YouTube that you can find and that we've cited.
Okay.
And then Toyota ran with his ideas for 50 years and ended up dominating even the US car market.
Hmm.
And then in the 80s and 90s, Motorola and some other companies started copying Toyota. And they came up with the Six Sigma brand. And they added their own little flair.
Okay.
The basic idea is uh, one of continuous improvement
Hmm.
where data underlies your decisions.
Okay.
And you're never really done. You don't improve things and then stop. The people doing the work are always making it better, more precise, higher quality, always thinking about how they can improve their work.
Continuous improvement,
Yeah, exactly. Right. You've heard it here first, folks.
I guess, or through Google or anywhere that you might find your buzzwords. But then that sounds pretty good to me. So how did they actually think about the levels? Because it sounds with the belts, it
Right.
sounds like martial arts, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. So the Six Sigma people, I don't remember their names, probably at Motorola, were big martial arts fans. And so they had the green belt is someone who has a basic understanding of the approach, usually.
Mhm.
Um, the, at least in ASQ, American Society of Quality, which is probably the biggest certifier of uh, Six Sigma practitioners. There's a black belt, and then above there's a master black belt. And each requires a project and a fairly large test. The black belt is substantially more than the green belt.
So that leads to our segue. You just completed your black belt, Dylan.
It did, yeah.
Tell us about that and tell us about why this is such a significant move, even.
It was hard. I will not lie to you. It. I had to revisit topics I had not touched, and since college, since undergrad,
Okay.
and I did. There's a lot of math. Uh, remember learning how to parameterize esoteric functions.
So then let's focus deeply, or let's go deeper into that. Then what are the requirements for a black belt? Let's
Mhm.
take let's take them or let's tackle them one by one. What's the first initial requirement?
You have to do a big project, like a multi-year project that helps like a whole bunch of people work more efficiently.
Okay.
And you have to use the principles of Six Sigma and Lean to do it. And my project is in year 3,
So you
and it
have
has helped many people.
you haven't finished it yet because it's continuous improvement, but
Exactly, right.
congratulations
Um,
on that.
right. I
Good, because we are going to move to the next one. So then, Dylan, so your multi-year project, how is that different than from something like a green belt or yellow
A
belt?
green belt is often like a 1 or 2 month project
Okay. Oh, that's a
where
big
you do it
difference.
kind of on the side with your operational duties, and you're focused on your existing work, and it's just a lot smaller. Maybe you're saving yourself and your team 12 hours a month or something like that.
So it sounds to me like, well, a difference between, well, it's a big difference, isn't it? A month to two
Yeah,
months compared to compared to a few years. So then let's talk about some of the other qualifications or the other success factors for someone like a black belt beyond just getting certified.
perfect. Okay.
So Dylan, what's another differentiating factor between a black belt and a green belt?
The green belt is like the shape of what it often should look like. It
Hmm.
starts with pretty basic concepts like DMAIC, which is how you should be structuring almost all continuous improvement projects. The difference with a black belt is it's a lot more math heavy.
Hmm.
You are talking about failure rates and how to sample and metric selection and a lot of statistics, design of experiments.
Yummy,
It was huge.
right? So Dylan,
Organization that you're looking for.
so let's get started with that too. So Dylan, what would you say are some of the questions?
In any interview, your goal is to find out how someone thinks. If they're going to be doing thinking for you, this is the biggest thing you're looking for. You want to find out if they are smart and if they get things done. Those are key qualities that you're looking for in any sort of thinking employee. Now, within a Six Sigma black belt,
Hmm.
how do you go about finding out how they think? I would start with a scenario related to your industry
Hmm.
and make the scenario a little bit wrong. Maybe you have the wrong people on the team, or maybe they're too low level, but you're trying to get to find out if they're going to challenge the fundamental assumptions
Mm.
that you set up in this little scenario.
Mm.
So, first step,
I need
uh,
to write this down. Yes.
you'll want to also find out how they structure their thoughts. What do they do first in the scenario, then next, then next?
Hmm.
Okay. And what they should start with is defining the problem and digging deep into the problem. So if you, they should be asking maybe questions about where did you get these metrics? How reliable are the metrics? Are people fudging the metrics?
Ooh.
Those are good signs that they're going to think critically and they have the wisdom to deliver a well-considered optimization project for you.
Hmm.
They could ask questions about what are the perspectives of the people of the different groups represented on the project team. They could ask about why, root cause of why things are happening.
Ah.
Um, sure, you've heard
Lot.
it here before, folks.
Well, it seems to me like a lot of what what we've been talking about, I should say, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Um, in this is kind of the define phase of DMAIC, the D of the 5 phases, and it's the most important because if you get it wrong, everything else is off the rails. If you're solving a problem that is a made-up problem, everything else is a waste of time. So it's very important to get right, and they should be challenging, politely, but challenging your assumptions. If they don't, if they say, "Oh, sure, what else do you want? What?" And they're just asking for requirements, or they're asking for trying to suss out how you feel or what would make you happy.
Hmm.
That's a bad sign. That's a sign that they're not going to apply optimization to the metrics that truly matter. They're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Mm.
The second phase, measure, kind of bleeds in, but they might talk more about, well, we're going to get more data about this because maybe we only have three examples of what a customer wants, and maybe it's worthwhile to get 40 more voices of customer or some other metric relevant to your scenario. The next phase, analyze. They should be asking questions about or talking about activities of determining how meaningful the data is, and they should be talking about root cause of what they actually found when they measured the problem. So more root cause, right? You're still going through this process of finding out, is what I think really true? And then in the improve phase, they're gonna, it's pretty straight execution, and there are some good guides about how to find if someone gets stuff done. But that's what you want in that phase. They drive it, they escalate issues up, they make sure status is well reported, project management skills. And then control. This is usually the most forgotten part because everybody gets excited once the thing happens.
Okay.
And then they forget what they go on to the next most shiny thing. So this would be another great thing to check if they talk about, well, this is how we're going to make sure that the improvements we expected actually happened. Okay. And if they don't, we're going to do it again, or we're going to find out enough about the truth of what's happening to make the improvements that we want.
So that sounds actually like quite the challenging phase. So in the define phase, you're really challenging basically the status quo, just like you said. But it seems like in the control phase, you're also challenging a lot because people do not want to sometimes know that they're wrong.
Right. Yeah. The control phase and the define phase have a lot in common. They are the most conflict prone phases because you're calling people's babies ugly. If the improvements are not delivering the value you thought, people are maybe going to fudge the numbers. They're going to fudge them for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Is this person you're hired going to actually find out what's really happening and bring it to light? Because the problem isn't the people in a well-functioning organization. It's the system. And you want someone who can build you a better mousetrap, a better business.
I really like that.
Feel it.
But it's actually the system that sometimes pushes people to fudge numbers because it's really acting on their it really messes with their priorities, let's say. So having a system that allows them to make mistakes but allows them to be open about their mistakes, especially in that control phase, is quintessential, I would say, to any system as well.
Super rare. Yeah. And in the control phase, you're going to be talking more about like, are the metrics we chose back in measure and define are they the right ones? Do they actually indicate the outcomes that we want? And often they are not. Mm-hmm. And you're going to re-choose different metrics. And you can read, there's so many books on how to measure success of a capability, some of which I'm sure we'll dig into that wasn't too hard. But one extra thing that goes along with metrics in the control phase is reporting and analytics. Ooh. Because often these optimization projects cross a lot of different capabilities. And so you're going to want to report the success to everybody because everybody often benefits from the end solution. And so they want to see that they're getting their money's worth or their influence worth.
I would agree. But then how does that still make us hire someone like a black belt?
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, do you think that this person will transform your business? Do you think this person will be an agent of change? And I think that's partially cultural. And I think the deeper question is, do you want to let them? There is a great movie from 2019, Ford versus Ferrari. For those who haven't seen it, there's a great scene in which the chairman of Ford is asked, do you trust me enough to run with this project?
Ooh.
And that's the question that you need to ask yourself before hiring someone like this, because you're going to need to champion a lot of these
Oh yeah.
efforts. And they're going to need to demonstrate the value too. They're going to need to have the organizational maturity to
Actually want
build,
change.
yeah, and build like a following and hold on, demonstrate value and and explain why these changes that they're championing are going to improve your business, and do that not only for you but for your whole team and staff.
No, I like that because I think there are a lot of examples out there, and I think a lot of people have gone through where you were even hired into an organization to change or to do something, and then it was basically just a massive circle jerk of people saying they want change and just not doing it. It's just
Right.
to rub the ego.
Yeah,
I used the word. I'm sorry.
there are a lot of people that I think have differing feelings, just conflicted feelings about change.
Sure.
They want benefits, but
None of the
it's
work.
scary stuff. And it takes a lot of internal discipline to chart a path for changing your organization and then following through with it. And there are in business a lot more failures than successes. And some of the most successful modern enterprises, like Netflix, have explained that the reason for their success is because they faced an existential crisis that forced them to just go all in on a new way of doing things.
And I'm going to say something here too. They have done themselves a service by realizing it and by obviously by facing the truth and by eventually, kind of going through the change versus other organizations that have not. Another thing to say to our listeners, if your organization is going through that, know that you don't necessarily really need a life changing, quote unquote, event to actually change your organization. You need to be a proactive strategizer and just be able to anticipate the change even before you hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm. This is true. We know a lot of people are struggling with this.
Yes, well, including myself.
So I would say if you do a scenario like that, and maybe a couple scenarios focusing on different parts, mostly sussing out, are they going to be afraid to tell you unpleasant truths, or are they going to be afraid of challenging you? Because if they're afraid of challenging you in the interview, there's a good chance they're going to be afraid of challenging you or other people in your organization when they really need to. For businesses that want it, I think the disruption of the last 2 or 3 years with the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, with supply chain issues, with people leaving all over the place, is a possible way to lose your business. But at the same time, it is potentially a wake up call and an
Yes.
opportunity to change the way you work in a vastly more efficient way, to let go of some of the ways that it's always been done and deliver something much better than you have before.
I hope I don't get sued for this, but ride the wave of change.
We'll call it fair use and hope the lawyers don't find us. It's transformative.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for today's episode. I think we learned a lot about how to differentiate between an actual expert and an actual. I always screw up at the end. Well, Dylan, thank you again for today's episode. I think we learned a lot about what makes a black belt great. And I'm pausing because I forgot what to say.
Listeners,
and to our listeners. If you do have any comments, if you do have any questions for us or any feedback, do let us know in the comments or even on LinkedIn. And until next time, see, that
That
wasn't
wasn't
too
too.
hard. Okay, that worked better than I expected, so I'm keeping it. Thanks again, Dylan. Have a good day.
Bye now.
Bye.
All right. I feel very good about